Hello, I'm back to finish off the music 2023 look back saga, trek, journey, odyssey, whatever you want to call it. So I just got done looking through all 260 some odd albums I've ever rated in my life. The scale goes from negative 300 to positive 300, 0 being neutral, positive 300 being literally the most perfect album that could ever be assembled, negative 300 being the opposite of that. So I have also made a sheets that kind of neatly organizes everything into, well, we'll see what years have the most albums I've rated, what years have the best albums I've rated on average, what years have the worst albums I rated on average, which artists tend to have my favorite albums, so on and so forth. So let's look into how my album slide sheets looks, and let's see, after all, what was the best year and worst years for music as of my opinions in 2023. All right, so this is the page. As you can see, I have each decade kind of blocked with a different color representing it. Not much going on in the 50s. In the 60s, you see a huge spike. The bottom, you'll see the average rating of each year. So obviously, albums that only have one score are going to have a high rating. The redder the score, the hotter the album, the better the score is. The redder, the better. The greener, the colder, the bluer, the purpler, the worse, the colder I feel on the album. So keep that in mind as we go through the bottom there. You can see a big spike in the 60s, tapering off a little bit in the 70s. Pretty low albums in the 80s. I have not listened to that many albums in the 80s, frankly. Nothing in 1990. Nothing in 2002. 90s, pretty full compared to the 80s. 2000s, hit or miss. Later 2000s have quite a bit, but early 2000s missing some entirely. Then 2010s, obviously, that's the decade I lived through and was listening to new music through. So of course that's gonna have the most. And then lastly, 2020s. So let's see. Average scores for decades. Let's see. 50s, 122. Kind of unfair because I've only heard a few albums from the 50s. 60s. All right, let's go actually best to worst. 70s, second place with 113, which I'll consider that more as my favorite decade of music, given that I've rated way more albums from that time period. 90s with a 94 score. 2010s with a 92, right behind. 80s with an 88. 2000s with an 86. 60s with an 85. And the 2020s with a 63. I am apparently not an average modern music person in my preferences. 60s also feels shamefully low. I think the problem is I was so into 60s music that I started really listening to a lot of deep cuts. And I'm gonna be honest, a lot of those deep cuts, they're deep for a reason. So I think the amount of music I listen to from the 60s means that I've listened to a lot more mediocre music and not as many of just the classic pure hits. Which means probably if I listen to a lot of albums from this year, I think all of these average album scores will drop because I'll just find more average music as I get through the main block of like 500 of the most iconic and most prestigious albums of all time. All right, so yeah, my average score is apparently an 89. Albums per year is a 3.8. Albums in total, 268. Yeah, and then you can see the numbers there. Now, let's move on to best year for music. Boom. 1971 with an average score with 8 albums of 141. That is amazing. You can see we have Maggot Brain as my least favorite album. Even that, I still like that album. And then Fragile as my favorite. Move on. So you see the 70s really dominates that top 5. And then 2015, dude, until I listened to Rodeo by Travis Scott, 2015 was in the top 5. But yeah, that Rodeo was not it for me. You can see how many bangers came out in 2015, though. Choose Your Weapon by Hiatus Coyote. Currents by Tame Impala, iconic album. To Pimp a Freaking Butterfly and Depression Cherry. Dude, that's the best year in modern music. 2017 had the Japanese House EPs, at least the last one of the collection. Clairvoyant, okay, a lot more like personal picks, but not as many critically acclaimed classics or future classics. 444, that was a good album. Drunk, yeah, okay. It just, oh man, Rodeo really drops that score a lot. That's unfortunate. But maybe that score will be neutralized by if I listen to much more albums from 2015, which so far is a freaking amazing year for music. 1985, the best year for 80s music because of Song from the Big Chair and Promised by Sade. Wow, that was a freaking good year for music. I don't, as you can see, I have like a break here. Anything with 3 albums or less, I don't count because I feel like I haven't listened to enough. At some point when I listen to enough albums, I'll probably drop any year that has 5 or less albums in it. Because really, even only having listened to 4 albums, I can't say I know anything about that year of music. 10 albums, 10 I think I've dipped my toes in, and I would say I understand that year of music, but 4, 5, not really. But yeah, according to this graph here, you see a lot of 70s, and then you see, this area is pretty mixed, but you notice a trend as you get to the worst albums. It's 2010, it's late 2010s and early 2020s. Maybe it's just because these albums haven't had enough time to grow on me, or maybe, actually, I think what it is, when you listen to old music, you're listening to the stuff that has survived because it is good. It has survived, it has moved past, decades of new music to exist in modern day because it's worth existing. But when you're listening to the new music, you're listening to stuff that maybe nobody at all will be talking about within maybe even a couple years, let alone 5, let alone 10, let alone 50. So that's probably why 2020's music so far has been so poor, because I'm listening to whatever catches my interest, not necessarily what is going to withstand the test of time. So I have all the albums with 3 sorted from best to worst, and then with 2 sorted from best to worst as well. And there you go. Let's see now. Amounts. Man, in 2020, I went through so many 1960s albums, and it really shows. Top 3, 3 out of the top 5 are from the 1960s. Yes, a dude with a Supreme Box logo listens to 60s music, not just Kanye West, Drake, and The Weeknd, or whoever else. I don't know. Lil Baby. Yeah, dude, I love 60s music. I know these bottom scores don't reflect that, but it's just unfortunate because I've dug so deep into 60s music that I started listening to some bad 60s music. There are definitely other bands that I have yet to explore from the 60s, so hopefully I find some other really good 1960s albums that will bring up that average score. Yeah, and then you see a lot of blue for the 2010s, 70s, 2010s, 2000s, and then it tapers off. You see a lot of 80s and a lot of 90s in this end here. Not really. A lot of late 70s too. Wow. 76, 75, 78, and 74 have 4 or less. Wow. Basically the whole latter half of the 70s. Wow. I didn't know that the 70s was so front heavy. But yeah, dude, I'm definitely not a 80s, 90s guy, even though my average album score for the 90s was quite high. I think it's just because I haven't listened to as many 90s albums. I feel like there's a dichotomy. A lot of people, maybe even most music people who are into, all decades of music, they tend to have an impasse. There's like the guys whose favorite decade is the 90s, who don't really prefer or care that much about the Beatles or a lot of psychedelic hippy dippy stuff from the 60s, early 70s. And then there's guys whose favorite decade is the 60s who don't really care as much about the hardcore punk and the grunge of the 90s and yada yada. And I just think that's a hard impasse to pass. I've talked to a lot of music guys, and if they say their favorite music's 90s, I already know I'm going to have a hard time. I love a lot of 90s music, but when they say that, it almost always comes with the territory of, Yeah, the Beatles are kind of overrated. Yeah, I mean, I guess I like Pink Floyd. It's like, bro, there's no I guess with Pink Floyd, dude. There's no I guess. Um, but yeah, maybe 2024 will be the year of the 90s. I really don't think so. From what I've been listening to and what I haven't yet put into my album rating system yet, it's been a lot of Brazilian music, and it's almost all 60s through 70s. So frankly, I don't see this list changing all that much. In fact, that's probably actually going to boost my 60s rating up a lot because, man, bossa nova rock fusion from Brazil in the 60s, 70s is just so good, so infectious. It's really great. All right, I'm gonna leave artists for last. So let's do album of the year, which isn't best album that came out that year because we already went through that. It's the best album I heard in the year. So it's gonna be between 2020, 1, 2, and 3, and soon to be 2024 as well. Let's see what our trends are for music listening. So in 2020, I listened to a whopping 116 albums, dude. And keep in mind, oh my God, I just realized this. The oldest album I rated was May of 2020. I listened to 116 albums from May to December. That's insane, dude. That is insane. Reason being is because I started the album rating system, so I had to go through and basically re-rate everything I've ever listened to. So 116 was basically my entire music catalog up into 2020. In 2021, I added oh no, that's average, you idiot. Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, well, it's not far off. It's 118, not 116. So 116 is the average score. Keep in mind, 2020 albums have had the most time to grow on me. And like I said, a lot of these albums were rated a long time ago. So they've been some of my favorite albums of all time. I just put it into the system in 2020. 2021, average score of 81 with 39 albums rated. 39 versus 115. 39 versus 115. That is crazy. 2021 was not a music year for me. It really wasn't. What was the best album I heard in 2021? To Pimp a Butterfly. Wow. Followed by Hatful of Hollow by the Smiths. Paranoid by Black Sabbath. Good Kid, Mad City. Genesis. Okay, I'd heard that since high school. I guess I didn't rate it in 2020 like I should have. Maybe I forgot about it. All right. Okay. And then, 2021, I don't remember. I remember I went through the Smiths' whole discography, but that's about it. It wasn't really a music-heavy year for me. Actually, no, that was my King Crimson year, wasn't it? LP. Oh, wow. I listened to LP for the first time. Tame Impala. Wow. Let's see. Let's check this. Donda. Yeah, disappointing. Final Cut. Gross. Fear Inoculum. Yellow Submarine. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, okay. 2021 was also my Radiohead year. But I guess I had already, that's when I did the deep dive through all of Radiohead, which means 2022 must have been my King Crimson year with an average score of 68. Ouch. 2022 was not my best year for music. In fact, it was my lowest average score with only 33 albums rated. 33 albums rated. Yeah, this is my King Crimson year. You gotta think though, dude, hold on. So I listened to 33 albums and a third of them were King Crimson. 30% of every new album I listened to in 2022 was from one band. That's crazy. But yeah, when you're doing a deep dive through an entire discography, you're going to find a lot of duds. There's a reason that it's a deep dive. You're going in unmarched territories. You're not just listening to the tried and true albums. And that's probably why the album 2022 has such a low average score. 2023, 70 is my average with 81 albums rated. A lot of my worst albums were from this year because of Music Sucks. I had to listen to a lot of music that I normally wouldn't, and it shows. It shows. Welcome to the Black Parade, Rodeo, Acid Queen by Tina Turner. That was trash. Oh, and I did my Kanye deep dive, and there's a lot of bad Kanye. Yeezus is not great. It's bad. It is a bad album. So dumb sounding. Let It Bloom. Yeah, a lot of just stuff that's not up my alley. But it was also probably my most explorative year for music. I listened to a lot of stuff I would never have otherwise listened to. And so, really, if I were to delete 2020, all the albums from 2020 that I had heard before 2020, I'd say 2023 was actually my favorite year for music. Best albums I heard in 2023, Untitled Unmastered. Wow, actually overtaking Introducing. 444, dude, yeah. Anything in Return by Tori Moi, Preemptive Strike, Four Calendar Cafe. I'd known a lot of those songs before, but still. Sade, Thriller. Yeah, 2023 was a freaking good year for music for me. And then 2022, I forgot to say, was also my Hiatus Coyote year. Mood Valiant, Drunk, Choose Your Weapon, also by Hiatus Coyote. Mr. Morale came out that year. Deftones, oh yeah. A little bit of a bummer story, but I had a close family friend, basically a father-in-law, no, a stepdad, die that year in a motorcycle accident. It was very sad, and his favorite band was Deftones. So after that happened, like I just really wanted to listen to every Deftones album. So I've heard every Deftones album. I haven't rated them all, but yeah, I did that in his honor. So it was just like a few days of just Deftones back to back to back, all in his honor, and it was good times and good memories as well with him. Last but not least is my favorite artists. So any artist whose albums I've rated more than 4 of is on this list. These guys only have 3, which means they're not canon yet. Unfortunately, Bark Psychosis doesn't have a 4th album, which is just so disappointing. I could maybe find some EP, like some little EP or tape or something to push it down to 4, but yeah, so far nothing from them. There's the average scores down there. Grizzly Bear is my least favorite with only 3. King Cruel, Tribe Called Quest. Oh, and the gaps, the reason that's sort of like that is I have all of their albums, and then the gaps are just the ones I haven't rated yet. JPEG Mafia, wow, I'm shocked that there's that much JPEG left to listen to. Oh, gosh, okay. Tribe, yeah, I'll definitely do all Tribe's albums at some point. Probably Grizzly Bear, too. Great band. Hiatus Coyote, cannot wait for that 4th album, dude. Don't let it disappoint. Don't let it hurt your average, because your average right now is looking real good. 131, dude. That's really impressive. All right, my least favorite artist that I've listened to every album of, other than Vultures, because I refuse to listen to that. I don't want to be part of the reason why Kanye West, the Nazi, is trending on Billboard. So maybe in a few years after all of those songs are off the Billboard and kind of irrelevant, then I'll give it a listen. But yeah, Kanye is actually my least favorite artist that I've ever done a deep dive of, with the average album score of 49. Now keep in mind, I've only given these albums once over, so maybe they would go up over time. But for now, Kanye. Last place. King Crimson. I consider King Crimson my second favorite band, but I guess I'm probably just thinking of their early 70s music and late 60s, because all of those are freaking incredible. But yeah, you see a bit of a steep dive after 71. Yeah, and it gets real bad here in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. I can see a lot of these album scores going up. It's just like I said in my gargantuan video going over every album I've ever listened to. A lot of King Crimson's problems are they'll make a lot of albums with just long instrumentals that are just not that pleasant on the ears. And then whenever they do make a full song with lyrics, those are incredible, but it's like a quarter only of the album. So wow, King Crimson, average score of 67. So a big jump, but still. Beach Boys. Beach Boys? Wow. There's a lot of Beach Boys left to listen to. First of all, Jesus Christ above all that is holy. That is a lot of Beach Boys. I'll probably not finish that discography. Average score of 75. Let's keep it that way, dude. I'm not listening to 1992 or 2012 Beach Boys. Are you kidding me? Zeppelin. About halfway through the discography, their average score is 80. That's actually pretty good. Yeah, we're getting almost into the hundreds. Got to think about it. 0 is neutral, so anything above 0 is positive, but anything past 100 is all likable, leaning into lovable. So 80 means I pretty much like every Led Zeppelin album. Tool. Tool's got an average of 86. I gotta listen to those first two albums, dude. I don't know why I haven't. I really do just gotta buckle down and do it. Radiohead, full discography done. Let's freaking go. And average score, 88. Wow, actually not that much higher than Tool. The Smiths, 5 albums. 5 albums, and it's higher than Radiohead's entire disco with 92. Dang, the Smiths, really impressive. Okay, next is Deftones, not a completed discography. I've heard all of their songs, but I have not rated every album. Average 95, even with 1997 album really weighing it down. What album is that? Round the Fur. Wow, very interesting for me and only me. The Beatles, I haven't listened to their early stuff. I know I should. I feel like a fake fan for not having heard the whole discography, but I digress. I haven't yet. Sorry, guys. Average score of 95 with 9 albums rated, dude. Okay, I'm a real Beatles fan, bro. You can't take that from me. That is a great score. Tame Impala, 5 albums, full discography done. 98. Okay, I feel like we're getting close to the end. Bob Marley, 4 albums done. You can see what I've heard. It's kind of this block here. Not sure why, but yeah, that's probably the stuff that my dad listened to, so it's the most nostalgic and most interesting for me to listen to. 102 Bob Marley, bro. Crushing the Beatles. That is crazy to me. I wouldn't even say I agree with that, frankly. Next, Pink Floyd. Okay, that I can respect. Pink Floyd, I've heard almost all of their albums. 1969 is, I think it's Gumma, which I just really don't want to listen to. I've tried rating that album. I don't want to finish it, dude. I don't like it. 101, probably going to go down once I finish the discography with the 2014 and Gumma. Rip Pink Floyd. And then then we have Yes. Dude, with how many albums they have, 21 albums rated, and they're this high on the list, that actually is insane. I probably do need to check myself and re-listen to some of these albums, but that is actually insane. 110 is their average score with 21 albums, dude. Okay, Yes probably actually is my favorite band then, but it's not the highest average. As Beach House isn't even the highest. What? Beach House is second place seemingly. I've rated all their albums except for Thank Your Lucky Stars, I think, and the I really don't remember what the album's called, but for whatever reason, usually when I do a discography, I'll start the first album I hear that I really like, and then I'll go up all the way to the top, and then I'll go down all the way to the bottom. Unless the album I listened to was kind of at the top, was like the early stuff of the first good album, then I'll go to the bottom, then I'll go to my way up after that. But Beach House, it was pretty random. It was Depression Cherry first, and then it was the new album because it just came out, and then it was Bloom, and then I just kind of listened to whatever popped up. I don't know why I haven't listened to their other 2015 album. I really have no idea, but I haven't yet, so there's that. And somehow, there's an artist with a better average discography than Beach House's masterful discography with an average rating of 122. And I think I remember who it is. Yep. And it makes perfect sense. Worst albums at 84. Only 6 albums over the course of 13 years. Yeah. They're all masterpiece albums. They're all amazing albums. And the average score of 137. Kendrick Lamar is the king of all the artists I've listened to on average. That is kind of crazy to think about. Okay, I've learned something new about myself, and maybe you guys found some interest in looking at this. It's mainly for me to look back on and be like, I wonder what my sheets looked like 3-4 years ago when I first was starting it. And now we'll be able to do that. I really hope to see most of these gaps close up. I'd love to be a fully completed Pink Floyd, Bob Marley, Deftones, Beatles, Beach House, so on and so forth. It'll be fun. I'll try to do some deep dives into more artists and just knock them out and see who has the throne at the end of 2024. All right, guys. Finally done making music-related videos. now I get to edit for the rest of my life. Probably will be done editing by 2025. So until next time, ciao, ciao.